There is a kind of silence that has weight to it. Not the absence of sound. Ships are never truly silent. Not with the reactor cycling and the ventilation pushing recycled air through aluminium corridors. But a silence of information. A gap where data should be. I had been listening to the Veld for 11 days before the Cormorant decloaked. My station was forward of the main sensor array, sandwiched between a coolant manifold and the bulkhead that separated signals, intelligence from the rest of the ship. The Cormorant was a Shade-class stealth cruiser, low-slung, radar-absorbent, running emission dampened since we crossed the border marker 6 weeks prior. She was not a large ship. She did not need to be. Our job was to listen. The Veld did not communicate the way we did. That was the first thing I had understood from the preliminary briefings, and the thing I had most spectacularly failed to grasp until I sat inside their signal and felt it myself. They did not send messages from point to point. They suffused. Their information architecture was something closer to what biologists call a mycelial network. Not a series of nodes exchanging packets, but a continuous field of low-frequency resonance that permeated this entire sector of space like a medium like atmosphere, like gravity itself. A signal sent by any Veld ship did not travel to a destination. It entered the network and became part of it. Every other node in range absorbed it, processed it, remembered it. They had been doing this for roughly 10,000 years. I want you to understand what that means. 10,000 years of every ship, every beacon, every gravitational event, every mass in motion catalogued and absorbed and held. The Veld network was not a communication system in any sense we would recognize. It was a memory. The accumulated sensory record of an entire civilization stretched across 200 light-years of space, dense and patient and continuous, and it remembered everything that had ever passed through it. We had spent 11 days watching it breathe. I had mapped approximately 4% of its traffic in that time. Patrol routes, maintenance signals, the faint low-register pulses that I had begun to think of as the Veld equivalent of a heartbeat. Regular, unhurried, the rhythm of something that did not know urgency because it did not need to. When you have 10,000 years of memory, you learn that most things resolve themselves if you hold still and wait. I had annotated 214 distinct signal types, had cross-referenced them against everything naval intelligence had on file. I had slept 4 hours in the last 48 because I could not stop listening. Commander Yates came to my station at 0340 ship time. She did not sit down. She had the kind of stillness that senior officers develop after enough years of controlled danger. Not calm, exactly, but the posture of a person who has decided that panic is inefficient. She said, "We've received the order. We decloak in 6 minutes." I pulled off my headset. I looked at the dates scroll on my secondary screen, the slow breathing pulse of the Veld network, 11 days of it, familiar now in the way that a foreign language becomes familiar before you can actually speak it. You begin to feel its shape. You begin to anticipate. "We'll be inside their resonance field when we drop stealth," I said. "Yes, they'll feel us immediately. That's the point," she said, and walked back toward the bridge. I put my headset back on. The decloak sequence takes 47 seconds. The emission dampeners come down first, which means the ship's natural electromagnetic signature begins to bleed outward before the visual stealth field collapses. I had modeled what this would look like from inside the Veld network based on my 11 days of observation. I had expected the Cormorant signature to appear as a new node. Something foreign. Yes, something that would not match any of their catalogued templates, but still recognizable as a ship. A mass in motion. A thing with an engine and a power source and the ordinary physics of matter. I was wrong about that. The moment we crossed the threshold of the resonance field, not the moment of full decloak, but the moment our emissions became detectable, first soft bleed of radiation into the medium, the Veld network changed. It did not alarm. It did not surge. Those were the responses I had prepared for, the patterns I had flagged in my contingency notes. What it did was stranger, and in retrospect, more significant. It paused. 10,000 years of continuous signal. 200 light-years of uninterrupted record. A civilization that had absorbed and catalogued every mass and every beacon and every gravitational tremor in this sector since before humanity had iron, and it paused. For 4.3 seconds, by my log, the entire local resonance field went still. Then it came back, not louder, not faster, different in a way I did not have immediate language for. I had been listening to this network for 11 days. I knew the texture of its ordinary traffic. What came back after those 4 seconds was the same network, doing something I had not yet observed it do. It was attending. Every node within sensor range had reoriented. The signal had not increased in volume but had shifted in. I struggled for the word, even in my own notes, in focus. Like a vast, distributed intelligence that had been thinking about 10,000 other things simultaneously had, without urgency, without alarm, set all of those things aside and looked at us. I have been asked in the years since, describe what that felt like from inside the data. The honest answer is that it felt like being read. Not scanned, not detected. Read. The way you read a word you have never encountered before, slowly, trying to place it against everything you know, finding that it does not fit, and holding it there in the middle of your attention while you decide what it means. The cormorant was fully decloaked now. I could hear Commander Yates on the bridge channel, her voice precise and level, running the standard first contact protocol, broadcast on all frequencies, the mathematical primer, the sequence of primes, the declaration of origin. I was barely listening. I was watching the network. It did not respond to the broadcast. Not because it was ignoring us. I became certain of that within the first minute. The Veld network was not built to exchange packets. Our radio signal entered the medium the same way everything else did, and the network absorbed it, and held it, and continued its vast, slow examination of the thing that had appeared inside it, without warning, and without precedent. 31 minutes passed. I logged everything. I noted the way the local nodes had begun exchanging signal at a frequency I had not charted before, higher, more complex, the kind of traffic that in human terms you might call deliberation. I noted the moment, at the 40-minute mark, when the field shifted again, subtly, barely measurable against baseline, but measurable, into something that felt, and I am aware this is not a scientific descriptor, like recognition, not identification, not categorization. The Veld had not placed us. They had simply acknowledged that we were a thing that existed, a thing that had entered their memory, a thing that they did not yet understand and had therefore decided to keep. Commander Yates came back to my station at the 2-hour mark. Assessment, she said. I thought about it for a moment. Outside, the Veld network breathed its slow, patient breath around us, and we were part of it now, logged, held, unresolved. They've never encountered anything they couldn't name, I said. In 10,000 years of record, everything that passed through this space had a category. Physics, biology, technology, everything fits somewhere. We don't fit. She was quiet. That's not a threat assessment, she said. No, I said. I don't think it is. I think it's something else. I did not have the right word for it then. I have had years to find one. The closest I can get is this. There is a particular quality of attention that only something very old and very patient can bring to bear. It is not hostile and it is not welcoming. It is the attention of a mind that has seen enough to know that genuine novelty is rare. Rare enough that when it arrives, you do not react. You simply hold it. You wait to understand it properly before you decide what it means. We were in their memory now. We would remain there. As in somewhere in the vast, slow architecture of the Veld network, something that had been thinking about the same some 10 years of the same catalogued universe had set all of that aside and turned its full, unhurried attention toward the question of what we were. We left that sector 14 hours later, running silent again, the orders fulfilled. I did not feel like we had won anything. I did not feel like we had escaped anything. What I felt, running my hands over 11 days of log data on a screen in a cramped compartment, aboard a ship that had just made the Veld stop and think, was something closer to the awareness of a threshold crossed. Not a door opened or a door closed, but simply the fact that on the other side of it, nothing would be quite the same. Whatever the Veld decided we were, they had already decided we were worth deciding about. That, as far as I have ever been able to tell, is where it began.